If you say you haven't been jealous of someone, you're lying. That's it. What do you think of when you think of jealousy?
Well, I immediately think the green-eyed monster.
Well, I think jealousy has negative connotations.
It's okay to be jealous. It's natural.
I think we can all point to certain moments where we've looked at someone else and wanted what they had in a way.
Maybe common thing in what jealousy means to me is when you see somebody living a life or living in the way that one strives for.
Welcome to Gilas Podcast, presented by Bing Bang. So I guess officially, welcome to Gilas Podcast. I'm so glad that you were able to make this work, and I appreciate it so much.
Thank you for inviting me.
Okay.
And I actually love and also I'm curious about the name of your podcast,
Well,
Gilas.
I'll go ahead and open it right up. So, me personally, I'm always talking about people that I'm impressed by, and I'm like, oh, I'm so jealous of her because of this, or I'm so jealous of him because of this. And so we decided to take that and turn it into a podcast and basically bring those people that we're jealous of to kind of sit them down, unpeel the onion, lay it all out there that, I am jealous of you because of this reason. So, just to put it out there, I am jealous of you for a whole host of reasons. You're writing, you're creative, you're witty, I love following it. Yeah, I know. It's just going to make you blush.
For your listening audience, I'm sliding under my desk out of absolute embarrassment.
And she's gone.
Okay,
That
I'm
was
back.
short. That was our shortest episode.
Thank you for being here, everyone. Bye-bye.
But we know when we see something in someone else that we are jealous of or we idolize, we also know that there's a whole story behind how they got there, why they are the way they are. So, yeah, I just wanted to bring you on to grill you, ask you a bunch of questions, and make you blush at the top of the episode. So that is what
Check.
That's
did
what
it.
Gilas Podcast is all about. And what is there not to be jealous of with you? I'm just going to read off the little bio and then we'll let you kind of open it up and actually explain who you are in your own words. But you're honest and you're raw.
Yeah, well, if you do a better job, then I won't explain. Go
Oh,
on.
no. You're a Jewish American writer and humorist, which I love that title, humorist. I guess sometimes I don't even know how to describe myself, but humorist would probably be another, a good one to use. You write essays about parenting and being a previvor/survivor of breast cancer, and you recently co-authored a book, I Just Want to Hang Out with You, part of a New York Times best-selling series, which is so impressive. I was bragging to everyone here. I was like, she's an author, and she's written essays for many pieces of work. so
Yeah, but you too, you can be that too. Everyone starts somewhere. Like anyone can be a content creator on Twitter. Anyone can be a content creator on Instagram. I forgot how I came across you on social media, but I'm quite picky about the content that I engage with and enjoy. And that's not to say anything about my level of ability or skill. I know what I like, and I immediately detected an intelligence and a wit in the things that you write.
Oh.
So before you created your Instagram account or wrote your first tweet or created your first meme, you weren't those things either, but now you are. So to all of the things that you're, and I'm making air quotes here, people, jealous of, I say, and I have a remedy for that, which I'll share later in the episode, but I say, you are all of these things also. So I'm a writer, but I wasn't a writer until a few years ago. I decided to invest time and energy in myself to become a writer. So you may have a skill that's there, but you can decide that you are that thing. And like now I've got a whole catalog of work on my website. I've got a bylines tab, but that wasn't always there.
Right.
There was a time where there was one thing that I published, and that's what makes a difference. It's time. When you look back and you're like, oh, okay, now I see what I've done, instead of looking forward or at someone else and saying, look what they've done.
Yep.
I say you've got to turn it back on yourself.
That's right. We all have something in us that motivates us to do whatever it is we idolize or, see in someone else. We obviously have that within ourselves, but it's making the time, making the effort, and just doing it. So, yeah. I mean, so you really only started writing a few years ago? And how did you decide that you were going to just put forth the effort to do that?
In earnest, yes. In earnest, yes. And I'm only looking away because I want to pull up your email from earlier. I was an English lit major in college. So clearly there's always something there that was a writer in me. I did for a brief time want to carry on with my degree. I wanted to get a master's in English literature and be a teacher or a professor or something. But I was supporting myself through college. We were majorly cash strapped in my house growing up. And by the time I graduated, my mom had passed away and my dad was left with 5 kids, of which I'm the oldest. And I was like, well, I guess I better get a job. And my other passion was fashion. So I worked in fashion for many, many years. I was able to use some of my writing skills in that because I eventually veered into the PR and marketing into fashion. I then, at the sort of start of e-commerce, in case anybody's wondering how old I am, it's super old.
No,
I was around when e-commerce started. So I would write, descriptions on the website and promotions and press releases and stuff like that. But I wouldn't call it a writing career. I eventually put my whole career on hold to raise a family. And it's not that it was such a virtuous thing that I decided. It was just that no one was getting the best of me. It was like I went from full-time to part-time to consulting, and I was frazzled at home. And I've got 4 kids, by the way, frazzled at home, frazzled at work. And then my husband and I together decided that we were going to split up the household responsibilities the way that we did. And it's worked for both of us. And this is not a conversation or podcast about division of labor in households, which is a very popular topic.
It is.
But yeah, I always thought, okay, so I'll be with the kids for a few years. I mean, my kids are super close in age. They're all 2 years or less apart. So it was just a matter of time before the little chitlins were off to school and I could just jump back into work, which of course is not really how life goes.
Right.
Because when the youngest was 1, I had my whole breast cancer thing, which we could talk about in a minute.
Yes.
And then we moved to London 10 seconds later, which is where we still are.
Yes.
So I am in London, England right now.
Yes.
And, time gets away from you and you get busy with the business of rearing children and acclimating them to another country, which, is not, that's not in the parenting book.
No kidding. You can't
What
read
to
about
expect
that.
when you're expecting to move to another goddamn country with 4 little kids after you had breast cancer and your ovaries removed.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, you're right. I guess I haven't
Volume
seen that
5.
one.
So it was, I'm a creative. Something, you're a creative. You get this. I know this about you. I've never met you in real life, but I can tell. I can tell by everything about you signals creative person. And my creativity would find outlets in, I used to bake these really cool or decorate these really cool cookies, and I would give them to my friends for their kids' bar and bat mitzvahs and other occasions. And that was fulfilling and wonderful. And then, when it came time for costumes in school, I would make those. And everything I did was always like, what can I do with a hot glue gun? And, but there was something in me just always loved words. I like letters. I like words. It's a thing. Some people love numbers and math. No thanks. You can keep your numbers and your math.
Oh, yeah.
But words. And in the back of my mind, while I was going through my whole breast cancer thing 13 years ago, I kept saying in my head, I'm going to write a book about this because it was such an outrageously unusual story. I'm going to write a book about this. Sometimes you just need to get something out of you. Right. And the way I get things out of me is with writing and with words. And then with the support of my husband and lots of friends saying, you can do this because you need other people to tell you what you can do, apparently. It was literally one foot in front of the other. And it's a lot when you're starting from scratch and you don't know what you're doing and you haven't been formally trained in it, but I am learning, right? Just like we learn what to do on Instagram, what to do on Twitter, how to start a blog. And So when I say I started writing in earnest 3 years ago, I'm using my launch date of my my blog or my website,
Sure.
which is called The Mom Who Knew Too Much. I'm using that as a benchmark because that was the first time that I published any long form writing publicly. And that was a huge step. You know, you're putting yourself out there into the world and it's terrifying.
So terrifying.
It's terrifying.
So terrifying.
And what's funny is we're terrified, but we're like, that's assuming that 8 million people are going to read this. No.
Yeah.
Probably 8 people who you know are going
8
to read
people,
this.
and one of them may or not, you know, maybe my grandma, maybe not. Like, you know,
Maybe.
Yeah, maybe not. She might not.
But that's a good way. You know, a close friend of mine who's also a literary agent was the one who said, you should blog. And she changed the trajectory of my writing career by just saying, you should blog.
Really?
Yes, she did.
Yeah.
Because you know, you sit down to write a book and you're like, okay, come on, words.
Yeah.
Where do you start?
Yeah.
Where do you start? But in writing a blog, it gave me a chance to find my voice, figure out how to tell a story and how to tell it in a funny way, in a moving way, in a dramatic way, short, long, in the safe space of my own website.
Yes.
And only once I sort of got that up and running, I had the confidence to start pitching articles to publications. And that's, anyone who's ever pitched an article can tell you, it's a daunting experience. There's a lot of rejection, a lot. And then it makes you feel really bad about yourself. But it also makes the acceptances and the yeses feel that much sweeter. So as I say, 3 years ago, I started all this, and here I am today with, you know, a nice amount of my work published elsewhere. My blog is still going. I've expanded my Instagram and Twitter community, and I have published an essay in I Just Want to Hang Out With You, which is a book by a bunch of moms of teens.
Ugh, it's so cool and so impressive. I love your writing style. And again, I touched on it earlier, but I love the way that you can use humor to work through topics or subjects or themes that are difficult. And I mean, your family story, and we're going to get into it in a second, just with you being a previvor/survivor, which I'll let you explain exactly what that is. Like, just the way you wrote about that, it's just beautiful. And I think humor and comedy is kind of that thing that can connect us all. You know, it keeps everyone comfortable, even if we are tackling those uncomfortable subjects. So I want to applaud you for that. It's really good. It's really awesome.
Yeah, I think thank you. I think that it's, you know, it's not an original idea that laughter is the best medicine and humor gets you through, but there are different people deal with crisis and loss and grief in different ways. And that's why I was drawn to the We Should Talk About This podcast. I'm a huge fan of Terrible Thanks for Asking, which is a podcast by Nora McInerney.
Yes.
I'm sure you've heard of her, because these are not sanitized, pretty versions of anything. These are, here's my story. It was terrible. You know, her whole thing is, how are you? I'm terrible. Thanks for asking.
Yeah.
So most people just want to hear, I'm fine. But, you know, her people and my people are the people who can sit with your, oh, that's awkward. Oh, that sounds terrible. But, you know, that's a humor in and of itself. Saying terrible thanks for asking is funny because you're acknowledging that things are not okay, but you can both be terrible and still go on with your daily life, right? You can be, you know, we look at people and say, well, she seems fine. Why? Because she's driving her kids to school, or she's in the supermarket, or she's going to work, or she's making jokes and making people laugh. That doesn't mean she's okay, but it's okay not to be okay.
Right.
And you can be both okay and not. This is, you know, never ending. It's like a balance. It's like being on a, you know, a Bosu when you exercise, that upside down. So yeah, I hate that thing, but no, I don't hate it.
I do.
I see so much of life as being a Bosu, where you're standing on the flat side and the bottom side is rounded and rubber, and you're constantly making tiny little adjustments to keep yourself stable. So sometimes you're leaning a bit to the left and sometimes you're leaning a bit to the right. You're never quite in the center. And aside from it being really good for your core, and I'm sure there's a metaphor in there too, it's it's life is just about balancing the scales between things being okay and not okay.
Yeah.
And I don't think there's such a thing as ultimate happiness or misery. It really, you really are carrying both at the same time, because we're complex individuals.
Yeah.
We're not just happy
exactly.
all the time.
Exactly.
So I forgot how I even got onto that topic, because I go on tangents.
I love it.
But yeah, so we're talking about humor.
Yes.
For me, that's the coping mechanism, because here's the deal. Whatever crap situation you're in, your whole MO is to just get through it. Your aim is to get through it, survive it, perhaps learn from it. But, I wasn't going to change the fact that my mom died, or that my dad then died, or that I, got breast cancer, even though I tried super hard not to. Those are facts.
Yep.
I was not going to change that.
Yep.
But what I could do was crack the most horrendous jokes about it, because that's my coping mechanism. And it also signals to other people that it's okay to let your guard down and not tiptoe around me either. I'm not fragile. You don't have to, my mom died when I was 20. So for years in college and afterward, my friends would be complaining about, my mom ruined my sweatshirt in the laundry. Oh, oops, sorry. I'm like, it's okay.
Yeah.
It's okay for your mom to be crap at laundry. It's not going to bring my mom back one way or the other.
Yeah.
It's fine. People complain about their parents and they look at me and get that, oh shit, look in their eyes. A lot of who I am, a lot of what I write about, a lot of my willingness to put myself out there comes from the grief and the loss. So I wouldn't trade them. You can't have it both ways, but you can sort of make it work for you while also honoring their memory and, thriving and surviving even in their absence.
That's pretty beautiful. Oh man.
Thank you.
All right. We're going to transition over to, so it is October now. We've touched on it a little bit. And so October, at least here, which you're originally from here, is Breast Cancer Awareness Month. Is that like everywhere?
So to me, October will always be Breast Cancer Awareness Month. And even though I've lived here for 12 years, I feel very American. And, I work on American time and I think in American measurement. So it's not specifically Breast Cancer Awareness Month here. Here, I think they just call it Cancer Awareness Month, but everything's pink.
Gotcha.
So
it's kind of implied. Yeah.
So there's that. But yes, October is definitely Breast Cancer Awareness Month. And it is when I do not shut up about breast cancer.
And you shouldn't. So I just want you to kind of talk about your story a little bit. Cancer is something that has affected your family. I mean, it's just made a huge impact, but you took steps, preventative measures to kind of protect yourself and protect your family. And I think it's a beautiful story, just what you did. And then, you found out your diagnosis. I won't tell the story. I'll let you kind of explain it. But yeah.
Okay. So here goes. And it's really, the words are fresh in my mind because I was actually just writing a couple of articles about this, because I get a lot of, hey, do you want to write a blog post for us for Breast Cancer Awareness Month? I'm like, hell yeah, I do. I got lots to say. So we are Ashkenazi Jewish. So genetically, that means we are predisposed to having the BRCA1 or BRCA2 gene. I am BRCA1, which gives you a very, very high chance of getting breast cancer. But my mom died of breast cancer when she was 42. And her mom died of breast and ovarian cancer when she was 49. So I never really knew my grandmother on my mom's side. I was 3 months old when she died. So I kind of, by the time I was 20, and I'm the oldest of 5 kids. So I had it seared into my brain that, okay, enough of this. Enough with the breast cancer dying shit. This is like not acceptable. So yeah, and I've always been kind of a practical and headstrong person. So I was more irritated by, the inevitability of it than scared. I wasn't scared. I was like, this has to stop. So what are we going to do? So at the time it was the mid 90s and I didn't even know about genetic testing then. I certainly didn't know about preventative double mastectomies, like what Angelina Jolie did. But what I did know was that I had to start taking breast cancer prevention seriously. So at 20, what I did know about was breast self-exams, and going for doctor's checkups, which I started to do. And then by the time I was 30, I was already married with a couple of kids, and I had a breast specialist. I wasn't just going to my regular sort of GP. I was going to a person who specializes in breast for checkups, what to look for, how to advise me. And as the years went on, advancements in medical technology came out. And it was around that time that, a couple of things happened. It was around that time that I found out a friend of mine had this, what's called a prophylactic double mastectomy, which means removing your breast tissue preventatively, which sounds very invasive and drastic, and is, but so is breast cancer, and you don't want that.
Right.
So when I saw she did that, I was like, oh,
That's an option.
this looks, that sounds pretty great, actually. That's that way I wouldn't have to have the threat looming over my head. So I found out about that probably a bit before I was 30. And then when I was 30, my dad died of colon cancer. So now I'm 30, married with 2 kids, still the oldest of 5 kids. I am the oldest living member in my entire family. Like, there's no one left. We're now starting fresh as a new generation. And I decide I'm going to have this preventative double mastectomy, both because I knew it was coming for me. If this is before I knew I had the gene, because I knew it was coming for me, there was absolutely no way it wasn't.
Yep.
But also because I had 4 younger siblings, a brother and 3 sisters. And I felt like I'm going to set an example for them. They can do what they want to do, but they can see that I have done this. So that's what I did. When I was 34, I had by then already tested positive for the BRCA1 gene, which was neither here nor there for me because I had decided to do the surgery anyway. And I did it thinking, okay, all I have to do is go through this horrendous surgery and 6 to 8 week recovery. I used my stomach, fat, and muscle in a procedure called a tram flap, my stomach, fat, and muscle for the reconstruction. So I didn't even use implants because when you have 4 kids in 6 years, you have so much to give.
I feel that.
Thanks for the boob job and tummy tuck health insurance. Thank you. And I didn't even actually care what the physical results were, like the aesthetic results, because how plastic surgeons are. He's like, oh God, I remember him saying, you're going to have a Britney Spears flat stomach. I guess this was in 2008. I'm like, I don't care about my stomach, dude. I just want you to get these boobs off me. He's ticking time bombs. Yeah, just go, whatever. So I woke up from the surgery feeling like the weight of 1,000 years had been lifted from me. And I was like, oh, this is what nirvana feels like. This is what it feels like to know that the surgery you were dreading is over. It was a 9-hour procedure. I was scared out of my wits. And I woke up, I'm like, new day, new me. And then 6 days later, my surgeon called to say, you're not going to believe this, but the pathology. I was like, what? Why are we doing a pathology? Yeah, you take my boobs out.
Done.
No backsies. You keep it. Leave me alone. The pathology revealed 2 early but very aggressive cancers in one breast. So at the age of 34, it was already in there. It was already coming for me. And she said, you have saved your life. And I was like, wow, okay, I can't really process this right now.
Yeah.
Had to go to my husband. I said, you talk to her because I'm going to just go self-implode. So a few weeks later, I was back on the operating table and I had my nodes checked. They did a node dissection to make sure that the cancer hadn't spread. And wouldn't you know it, there were micro metastases, like 6 cells in one node. I mean, they were catching it as it was happening.
Yeah.
It was, I've never met anyone. I've yet to meet anyone who's gone in for a preventative double mastectomy. And by the way, this was 3 years before Angelina Jolie. So people were not talking about this. They were not doing this. They were not familiar with this. I got everything in the way of reaction from good for you, that's great, to why would you mangle your body like that? Why don't you just wait and see if you have cancer? Well, that's valid too. There are people who take that approach. But It was very validating for me to say, haha, I told you I saved my life.
So. Yeah. Oh my gosh.
So, and because of my young age, my family history, the fact that it was in my nodes and my BRCA1, they said you should have 8 rounds of chemo preventatively. They weren't trying to shrink anything, but it was still chemo and it still sucked. And I still lost all my hair. And yeah, that really blew. So had the chemo. It did. Yeah, I hid my baldness from my kids because they were really little. My kids were 7, 5, 3, and 1 at the time.
Yeah.
And so that was a lot to
They
distract
ask a
me.
lot of questions at every one
Yeah,
of those ages.
I just hid it from them somehow. And the good Lord blessed me with kids who don't seem to notice that their mother's suddenly wearing hats 24/7, even while she sleeps.
Mom just really got into hats for a while. I don't know what it
Yeah.
was. Fashion.
Mom's head must be super cold because she's wearing one of those fuzzy berets again in her sleep. And then the last thing I did was I had my ovaries removed. The doctors had said, look, if you're done having kids, which I was, have your ovaries removed so that you're not producing any more estrogen. And that set me off into menopause at the age of 35. And 2 months later, we moved to London. And that's why I'm obsessed with breast cancer prevention, awareness, and getting everyone else in the universe to think about it and do something about it.
As you should. I mean, that is a mission that anyone can get behind. So yeah, talk about your Feel It on the First content, which I think is just brilliant, and I love it.
With the greatest of pleasure. That's all I ever want to talk about is Feel It on the First. So in the interest of full disclosure, I did not come up with the hashtag. I found it a little over 2 years ago, but it wasn't very populated. It was just sitting there, like waiting to be developed.
You to blow it up.
Yeah, Feel It on the First. Obviously, Feel It refers to doing a breast self-exam, feeling yourself, and it's a nice alliteration, Feel It on the First, but obviously you can feel it any day you want. The idea is that you're doing it once a month. So on my Instagram page, which I use for, as a platform for my writing, telling stories, lots of breast cancer stuff, lots of funny observations, connecting with an audience of smart people, finding people like you and making Insta friends. I do lean into breast cancer at least once a month, and in October, pretty much all month long. And what started out as a campaign where I would take a picture of 2 roses or 2 chestnuts or 2 tomatoes turned into monthly posts of me holding up 2 things where my boobs are that are season appropriate. So last year in October, I did pumpkins, and let's see, what were some of the good ones I did? I did dreidels for Hanukkah. And this year I did. A friend of mine sent me a couple of months ago a black t-shirt with 2 skeleton hands over the boobs. And I was like,
perfect.
I'm keeping this for my October post. And I did that. And it's a funny way to make people smile and get their attention. But what started happening is friends and people who I don't know, people who just follow me, started sending me pictures. They're like, oh, this reminded me of you, Gila. And it's a picture of their kids' breakfast, which is 2 cereal bowls stuck together, or something they saw, 2 clouds that look like boobs, or
I know
2
I
ice
sent
cream
you
cones.
a cantaloupe cut in half and 2 cantaloupes. I know I sent you that this summer. Yeah.
You can't, and I repost all these things. I save them, and throughout each month, and especially October, I will repost them. I think on the 2-year anniversary of my Feel It on the First campaign, I did a montage, like a collage of all these photos that people had sent in, some of whom had sent not just 2 items, but themselves holding up 2 items.
Yeah.
So the We Should Talk About It, about that podcast, ladies, Jessica and Jessica, sent this. They did a reel of the 2 of them holding these, like, I guess, decorative metal pumpkins up to their boobs. And I didn't even realize that it would sort of expand and be as impactful as it's been. And when I say impactful, I don't mean I've got, millions of people tuning in. For me, even one person tuning in makes a difference.
Yep.
Because along with the photos of 2 sunny side up eggs in a pan that people send me, and literally 2 anything, they see it everywhere. Along with that come messages of, hey, because of your posts, I felt myself and I found something and I went to the doctor. I'll let you know how that develops. And the woman would write, a couple of women wrote back a week later, okay, it was nothing, false alarm, but thank you. Or I, sent this to my sister and she never checked herself before, but now she thinks it's so funny that she checks her boobs. If I can be, this is an example of where humor advances your cause.
Mm-hmm.
Because if people are seeing boobs wherever they go, that means the message is getting through. I think about breast cancer all the time for obvious reasons.
Yep.
But if something's not on your radar, then it's not on your radar. Why would you remember? But this, it's almost like people have come to, whoever follows me has come to expect this reminder, and they've scheduled it in. Some people have written to say, hey, I have set myself a reminder on the 1st, in my phone, or just, lots of inspirational and really gratifying messages that also make me feel like if, when you go through something really, really difficult and some good comes out of it, whatever that good is, it doesn't change the hell that you went through, but it makes it feel somewhat more worthwhile, I guess.
Yeah.
Like my 2 younger sisters were not going to have their prophylactic double mastectomies. They're younger than me. It just wasn't on their radars. And maybe they didn't necessarily see some of the things that I saw when my mom was sick. I mean, she suffered and it was gruesome, and the images are forever burned in my brain. And I was like, I don't want any part of that.
Yeah.
So they did not want to do it, although they supported me 100%. When they saw what happened to me at 34, they were like, wait a second. They got gene tested, and 2 of them went to also have preventative double mastectomies. And I felt like, and this, I'm not saying, they did it because of me, but my situation was a cautionary tale.
Right.
So I can look at that. I can look at my sisters and say, look what happened because of what they saw me go through. Yeah. Let me feel good about that on some level. Let me feel like I kept a promise to my mom to look after my siblings on some level, maybe. But they really enjoyed the weight of impending doom lifted from them. Sure. They got what I wanted.
Yeah.
So that's the Feel It on the First campaign. And I'm on Instagram at Gila Pfeffer. If you want to follow me, fine. But if you don't, just tune in once in a while to see my Feel It on the First posts and remember to feel it.
That's right. That's right. Feel it. And full disclosure, as I was listening to that podcast this morning, I think I did miss it on the 1st, but I was getting ready and I felt it because you
felt it on the 6th.
I did. I felt it on the 6th. You put it on my radar, and that's all it takes. And especially with the audience that you've built just on your website and on your social media, it is, I'm sure, a ton of women who just need that reminder. So, I mean, I don't know. Who knows how many people you've affected, and you don't even know. It's very, very, very cool.
And there are things that aren't on my radar that somebody else will remind me of. And as long as everyone shares their little nugget of wisdom and their experience, then we've kind of got all of our bases covered.
Yep.
I wrote a tweet recently about, I'm not the mom that reads any of the emails. So to all the parents who actually read the school emails and answer my questions on the group chat, what would that email say? That's me. And I readily admit it. I will own that. I will fess up and say that when I see a school email, if it's more than 4 words, my eyes are going to glaze over. And I'd rather go to the chat group and say,
just do they have the cliff notes? Yeah.
Yeah. Like, is today half a day? Or was their assignment due yesterday? Or is there school on Monday? That's my brain will more quickly absorb the question answer than the email. Yeah. I'm not saying it's right, but I'm like, well, how about I remind you about breast cancer and you just tell me
Throw
when
me a bone once in a while.
class trip money is due. Deal?
I love it. Oh my gosh, this has been great. So I am going to get 2 more pieces of information out of you. Just your advice. I'm sure you have tons of advice, but I'm going to put you on the spot right here and make you give me 2 pieces of advice that you would give anyone.
Whoever would want my advice. That's the
to.
disclaimer. Proceed this at your own risk by taking my advice. Happens to be I'm quite the big advice giver. So
you have wisdom. Okay. There's a wisdom about you that I am just very into.
I mean, it works for me. So, okay, here's what works for me. Ready? Number 1, duct tape. I'm a big fan of duct tape. Always have it in your house, and not just the plain duct tape. Go to like Michael's or Hobbycraft or whatever it's called, Hobby Lobby, and buy lots of fun different duct tapes because duct tape is great for everything. I like to say if you have a problem that you can't fix with duct tape, you've got a real problem. Duct tape has been the answer per me. I should make a bumper sticker out of duct tape that says duct tape is the answer.
You should.
That is piece of advice number one. And oh gosh, it's pressure, right?
I know it is. It is.
It's like, what if Oprah watches this and then says, oh, her advice sucks, I'm not going to have her on my show.
Oprah is a huge fan of duct tape. That's a fact. So you nailed it for advice number one.
Okay. And the other piece of advice is, well, no, I'm not going to say that one because it sounds a bit cheesy. I'm trying to think of a better one.
The cheesier the better.
Okay. I've been talking to my kids about this a bit recently. Don't assume that, the flaws that you amplify in yourself and that you see as being the most noticeable flaws are not visible to other people. So people are busy, thinking about their own alleged shortcomings and flaws. So when you go out into the world, feel confident in knowing that whatever's bothering you about your appearance or your lack of experience or your lack of accomplishments, and these are all internal feelings, know that everyone's too busy worrying about their own to notice or care about yours. And there's a lot of comfort in that, I think. It can give you a confidence of not feeling self-conscious and just interacting with people in a more laid back way.
I love that. I heard something the other day that was similar. It was like and I shared it with someone yesterday, you are the main character in your own story. You're not the main character in anyone else's. They're really not focused. You're just someone that's going to come in and out, and they're not going to focus on the haircut or if you misspoke. They're not going to focus on that. Or if they do, they're going to forget it soon. So I really, really relate to and love that piece of advice as well.
Yeah. Like when you say the wrong thing to someone in a Zoom and then you obsess about it for.
I will be thinking about this later.
But for at least 24 hours, I'm going to think about, why did you say that? Or why didn't you say that? You talk too fast. You need to slow your speech down. But we digest things and then move on. We only harp on the things that we have said and done. So if you just stop and think for a minute that everyone's doing the same thing, we're all on the same boat, it takes the pressure off. It takes the pressure off a lot, especially in an era where everything is photographed and videoed and, for internet eyes and forever. It's like, we're people. And in a lot of ways, we're having very similar experiences.
Right. Oh my gosh. Well, this has been so great. Thank you so much, Gila, for coming on and chatting with me and chatting with us. And where can people find you again? I know you've mentioned it a few times, but just let's tie it up at the end.
So we'll tie it up at the end, but can I just say one more thing before we tie it up at the end? And you can either edit this out or keep it in wherever you want. I know we talked in the beginning about the fact that your podcast is called Jealous, and we talk about things we're jealous of. And I try not to use the word jealous, but if I am jealous of something, and like you say, we all are jealous of something or someone, I think it's really important. It's a natural human feeling, but it's important to channel that jealousy into maybe something that helps you, reduce the jealousy, meaning, do something about it. If somebody has accomplished X and you want to accomplish X and you're able to maybe make strides towards that, use that as an inspiration rather than a jealousy. And the other thing is, and I have to tell myself this all the time, and I have made progress, but still have plenty of ways to go. I try to look back sometimes instead of forward, because if all I say is, oh, well, I haven't had an article published in the New York Times yet, so I suck. Well, hang on a second. Let's look back and see the things that I have done that 3.5 years ago did not exist. And let's look at the progress that I have made. And a lot of times it takes an external person to remind you of that, like I did at the beginning of the episode where I pointed out what you had built. And I think that's a really good antidote to jealousy.
Absolutely.
Is looking at yourself more honestly, perhaps through someone else's lens, and seeing what you've accomplished, what's inspirational about you, and wondering, why would somebody be jealous of me? And then saying, okay,
There's a
all
whole
right, I guess.
list of reasons. Oh my God.
Okay.
Pretty great.
Okay. So that's what I have to say about jealousy.
I love it.
You can
Thank you.
find me on my website, which is themomwhoknewtoomuch.com, or just gilapfeffer.com. They both take you to the same place. Everything else is at Gila Pfeffer, Instagram, Twitter, TikTok. I'm not really on Facebook. I never got into Facebook. I mean, no one was on Facebook yesterday or the day before.
That's true.
But if you're looking for me anywhere, it's at Gila Pfeffer, GILAPFEFFER. And I hope you'll come say hi. And anyone who has sort of a concern or a story or just wants support with regards to breast cancer, DM me. I reply to everyone. Always,
Amazing.
always, always.
Amazing. Amazing. Thank you so very much. And
Thank
I
you.
guess enjoy the rest of your afternoon. It's probably getting close to 5
It
or 6.
is. It's close to 5. I'm going to go
Oh.
make some dinner,
Oh,
and you're going to go have some lunch.
I am.
I know the world's a weird place.
It is a weird place.
Thank you so much for having me. This was
Of
really,
course.
really fun.
Of course.
And let me just say again how much I love your Insta stuff and tweets. They're funny and smart. So
Well,
thank you for that.
Thank you. Thank you so much. That was really nice. Oh, this is great. Well, take care. Thank you. And hopefully we will talk again soon.
I would love that. I would
Awesome.
love that.
See you later.
Toodaloo.
Bye.
Bye.